We'll call the meeting to order at 5:37. And the first order of business will be to approve the attached minutes from the April 21st, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve. This is Wendy. Oh, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Motion carries. Let's go to subcommittee updates, and we're going to start with any website updates. I think it's a little different than what we've had in the past when it comes to website updates.
I know, Devin, you want to say, I mean, you've been updating and putting information and.
Yeah, I would just say we've just continued to add any of the meeting recordings and presentation decks from the community outreach events onto that dedicated page. But otherwise, there haven't been too many updates, and I think Kat might have a little bit to add regarding the town attorney.
Yeah, so we're in discussions with the town attorney because once the referendum question is set next week, we will have to remove some things that are considered advocacy. So we've been back and forth with them to kind of finalize that and make sure we have a clear understanding of what needs to come down. I will say that we also have added a few things to the FAQ and elaborated in some areas based on some community outreach events and the feedback we're receiving. We are going to go over that later in the meeting, but some of the questions have been updated.
Anything else?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Beth. No, it's gonna take 2 seconds just to let everybody know the newsletter is out on the website. So if you want it, we want to start pushing it out via social media. Yeah. Any way we can get it out there before it even hits mailboxes, that would be great. So I just pulled it up. It looks great out there. You see front and back of it, which looks great. So by all means, we can distribute it that way as well.
Oh, that's great. I'll include it in my letter on Friday. Good.
Excellent. I was just going to ask, Kat, when you mentioned meeting with the town attorneys, do we have a sense when and if things are taken down, will it be indicated why? And is there any opportunity, if it's just a word or a phrase or a paragraph, to change something and revise it to keep the bulk of it rather than everything gets wiped out,
Yes.
in that document?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been combing through very closely in things like the FAQ. There may be some things that we have a sentence here or there or a word. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be proposing new language that we can keep up so that we can, make an attempt to keep as much as possible. The thought is also on the home page, we currently have a project status update that would include, the project has been sent to referendum and all of that information, but also some context about the law and why we had to take some stuff down. Great. So it's right there front and center. To kind of provide an explanation right off the bat.
And along those lines, I'm glad you brought that up. Will there be, I think that might be pretty clear to people, but if they're not looking there, could we do a banner or some kind of block with not a disclaimer, but just an explanation that something referencing that, because of election laws, the original website content may be
pop up.
Altered, yeah, something that's really going to jump out, just so people maybe don't get frustrated or think, just understand that they might be missing something. You could probably think of a better wording and, maybe just visually how to.
Yeah, I'll look into that to see if there's something a little bit more eye-catching, so you don't really have to work hard to find that information. Yeah, I think we can look into that definitely to pop up right away. We also are going through and combing through our social media. In our discussion with our attorneys, we felt it was important to keep our pages up so that we can say at least town meeting tonight, referendum today, here's your, for more information on your polling locations. So we do have to comb through that, and, pieces that have been deemed as advocacy, those posts could be removed. But for the most part, I think it's important to try to keep our page up because we have a large following and people should be informed. Here's a town meeting, here's a referendum. So that's our goal right now.
Okay. So do you have any direction around specific words, language, vocabulary, or you're just kind of going based on your conversations and your gut?
We had an initial conversation, and based off of that, it was kind of like, okay, present to us what you would like to keep. And that's how it was phrased. And so obviously we're making preparing for an argument as to why we should keep something. They say it's deemed advocacy. We'll have a back and forth discussion. You know, like I've said before, at the end of the day, our attorneys are the ones looking out to protect us. And if they tell us to take it down and you know, they have justification for it, we'll take it down.
Sure.
But we, combing through each and every page of the website, we're able to say, you know, I don't think this is advocacy because, or you know, this one's questionable because, and then open up that dialogue. So this approach, as in, this is what we want to keep and this is what the website would look like, is the better starting point for our attorneys to then say yes, no, you know, and have that discussion.
Good, thanks.
Anything else with website? Okay, we're gonna move on to Ira.
Yeah, and so this is a great segue. Being through many of these and understanding, I've been through these debates, and sometimes, you know, there's stuff I see up that probably would be cited, and then there's stuff that I don't know why they took it down. I can tell you Elections Commission's having a hard time with the digital world right now. It was much easier, it was all paper. And Beth, going to your point, is that when I designed this campaign for you, helped design it anyway, it was important to get as much information out the way we did it. And so get it as close to possible, that how much more can we possibly give people? And then what we did is I had a 4-step process. So I thought I'd review it so you get an idea where we started in January. January is like a blank slate. I mean, it was the new year, you know, it was crazy time going on nationally. We weren't getting attention, but January is kind of, we were organizing. We know we had to kind of pivot and kind of regroup, and it was just getting organized. And that was the most important month of my belief, that who's going to do what, how we're going to do it. So everything we're doing up to now based upon putting a strategy together. So the first center of the strategy, you know, had to do right now was just awareness. So that was pretty much February. We had to make people aware what the heck's going on, what's the status of everything. Actually started, we actually started with the surveys in mid-January, but it took till February to analyze it. And then, I don't know if you guys remember, we actually did a survey and it kind of laid out, and we got a great response back that there'd be general interest in this and that they just wanted a lot more information. And that it was skewed. Unfortunately, and I'll go back again, that, you know, parents were a very low percentage were responsive, and it was mostly more the aging population. Farmington responded. So that's why you do the survey, you find out who needs to know what, and we then kind of mobilized and say, okay, we have to provide just more information. So at that point, we already knew that you're going to recommend to build a new building, but most of the community didn't even realize that on the survey. They had no idea what it's about. So the job became, we got to make people aware exactly what's being recommended and why. And so that became the awareness. Here's what it is. The first newsletter that with Q&A, kind of an update that went out in status. So it was the survey results, and, you know, I presented to town hall. So giving everyone kind of, we call a baseline to work from. And then the second newsletter got into education. We were explaining a lot more in more detail what was going on, what was, you know, here's what we're planning to do, how we're going to communicate, the Zoom meetings, everything we possibly going to do to make it as transparent as possible, overcoming that and laying what we call the agenda. Here's how we're going about it. The town council decided we're going to probably May, you know, second week in May, we're going to post it. So we had more information. And the third one's going out right now which is the first time we ever did one like this, is more like a poster or an infographic, which says, here's all the stuff you need to know. And if you want more detail, you know, do it right now. So it gives, you know, even during the quiet period, information that residents can refer to. Knowing, depending what the lawyers allowed up, what the election laws, knowing that's unpredictable, that, something that looks like it's information versus advocacy. It's always a debate. So that's where we're kind of on right now. And so now it's going into final community engagement, which now depends on the community. What you guys did, you laid down all the information, you went out, you heard from people, and here's where it is, here's what's going on, here's the Board of Ed, here's the town council, the building committee. Anything that all of you done in my experience has been done. There's really nothing more that you can possibly present to the community other than answering nonsense questions, which you should just ignore. And it's just go forward with, doing this. And now it's a group of, it depends on the citizens during a quiet period, to encourage their fellow neighbors and support, to go out and vote. It's that basic. Is that, they don't need any more information. You've given it to them. So, last night, that's why it was good. You covered everything. You covered the waterfront. You did everything you possibly can do that, that in terms of information, you cannot accuse transparency. And the only thing that would happen now is that the people who are not supportive of this is going to be usually two groups of people. One, because they don't want to pay more in taxes, even if it was $1 more. And then there's the other people who just, for some reasons, and which I'm not going to explain here with much more detail, just have some gripe or something, or a political viewpoint that has nothing to do with actually what you guys are trying to, to get proved. So that's why we are. So my experience, I think you're in a good place.
So any questions for Ira?
And the only thing I'm going to point out to you guys, all you can go out and do as individuals, knock on doors, you can do whatever. You're not limited because you're part of an official group. You just can't represent that group. The building committee people on there, like Wendy, you can go out and do what you want, but you have to go as a citizen and a parent. Beth, the same thing.
Yep.
So you can't go represent the official, because the Elections Commission has made that clear. Like I told you before, anyone who wants to just, I've seen official people run PAC groups, and they can do that as long as they just represent themselves. So I just want to just clarify that it doesn't hinder you, even though you guys did the heavy lifting. And now it's just, getting your fellow citizens to recognize this is an important vote. It's really important for the community, and it involves, the future of the kids.
Ira, it's Ellen. I have a question, because I'm getting, I want to make sure I'm guiding board members and elected officials. We're recently being asked to submit letters to the editor of our local newspapers. So if you're an elected official, say I did it, can I sign it? Ellen Sayuda, Board of Education?
No. You only can sign your name, resident of Farmington.
Okay, so within the body of the letter, if you state you're a resident, a parent, a volunteer, a current member of the Board of Education, is that okay? Because that's a fact.
I think what I would do, and I'm sure the lawyers would tell you this, keep arm's length away from the PAC groups. That you do it on your own, and that's the way it should be done. So
if I submit a letter, for an example, on my own to the Valley Press, in the body of the letter, can I state making the comments as this, that, and the other thing, and as a current member of the Farmington Board of Education?
Yeah, who are you submitting it to? The current hardly takes any of these letters anymore.
No, I'm not. No, the Valley Press, our local newspaper.
Yeah, does the Valley Press, are they posting a lot of letters to the editor from Farmington?
They do.
They do.
Okay. Yeah, you again, just representing yourself and saying, and you kind of make it very clear in the letter that, it's nothing wrong. The obvious, pointing out the obvious is okay, but you got to make it clear you're representing yourself.
But it's okay to state I am a current member of the Farmington Board of Education.
Yeah, you can state, because that's a fact, but you have to also state, but given that, that I only can represent myself and not the board, I would just make it a little clearer, that's all.
And as far as signing it, you just sign your name, you don't put.
Yeah, you can't, because the minute you put your chair Board of Ed, it looks like it's officially coming from the Board of Ed.
Okay. Thank you for
I
that.
I was wondering if, I know I've seen before where it isn't in the body of a letter, but someone's in an official capacity, and the newspaper will say, you know, Miss Sayuda serves as the, because it's almost like journalistic, you know, they want to make clear the point of view, or that the person has, so sometimes it's like an addendum in italics. You'll notice at the end of a letter.
You can't control that.
Right.
So that's, if that happens, there's nothing you can do about that.
Right.
Yeah, but I've seen letters to the editor come from official people in the quiet period.
We had members of the town council take pictures on town property and say, you know, as as members of the town council, that they felt the project was important, and you know, it was basically an op-ed piece that got picked up.
Yeah, there's two things concerning. I wouldn't worry about the interest groups. I'm worried about that you guys don't get cited for election laws and have to pay a $2,000 to $4,000 fine. That's all. This is, you have to separate between the nonsense and negative people who are going to complain about, okay, you can't do that, because it only comes about if there's someone citing something where you're actually breaking these laws. Right? You're not. You live in town. You have a right to say whatever you want. It would be different with Kathy, who doesn't live in town. And of course, anyone who's actually working for the town, they should be more careful. If they're, if you're, working and you're getting a salary and doing it, I'd recommend you don't submit anything at all. That's because then it can be construed that, I'm paying you. But someone like Meg, is chair of the board of the thing. She could submit letters in too if she wanted to, or Wendy, any one of you. As long as you're living in town and you're a tax-paying person, it's freedom of information stuff, First Amendment.
This is Wendy. Actually, going back to Beth's question about the editor, I'm sure if you submitted something to the Valley Press, if you just told the editors not to add the addendum, that they would follow with that.
They might or might not, Wendy. You can't control their editorial policies.
Oh,
they might have to. They might have to identify it as part of their, their opinion page. Most would. I know most newspapers would say, Beth is on the Board of Education, and that's at the bottom. As long as you don't say it, and you sign your name that you're writing this on behalf of the Board of Education. So be really careful on the language. You're saying, I'm writing as a resident or a parent, or I've lived here with my family, and I really, I'm a big supporter of this. I've been engaged in the community for many years, and that's fine. But it's just, they're going to look at how you signed it, in terms of how you're representing. And if the paper puts that, Beth is currently a Board of Education member, they're just stating a fact.
I'm looking at the Valley Press actually right now to see, because I see at the end, like you were saying earlier, you can just say I'm a resident, right? Or we can ask them to just identify us as.
You can ask them, but I'm almost 95% sure, Wendy, they're going to put down the title.
Okay. They're getting at bias, I think, as a journalist, when they do that, they want that included. But again, like Ira said, I suppose you can't control it, but then again, they'd have to research it if you didn't mention it in your letter.
Well, for example, teachers could do this. They're residents and doing it, even though they're being paid by the town. They still can do this if they want to submit letters in and go around and do what they want. They're actually, anyone who, who works in there, I'm just thinking of leadership a little bit more in terms of, if the, town manager or Cat, they're the ones that have to be a little more careful. But since you've been having teachers on there, they can do it. No one inhibits, as long as you're properly representing your voice, not the organizational voice, and you're not using any town funds to do it. It'd be perfectly fine.
Do we know if the requests for similar letters are going out to others beyond this group or town council or Board of Ed?
Members of the community, I believe, like, former town council members, or very similar to last time. members of the community that, you know, are proponents of the project, but are just well respected, but don't currently serve an official elected or appointed role. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking any residents,
Yeah.
meaning like, I think, that, we've certainly made our voice heard, I think, and have, and this isn't, I'm not going against the conversation. I'm just saying that I think that there's a lot of value in others within the community rallying around this and providing their voice. So I just want to make sure there's an effort around, probably a more significant effort, I would think, around getting other people within the community engaged in providing, statements.
Like a variety of perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm saying, like if somebody doesn't know at this point that I don't support it, that's probably pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But I get that the more you say it, I understand that, and the more you're vocal about it. But, the more people I think hear their neighbors say it, and people that are within the community, I think that carries a lot of weight and impact as well. It's not just the 20 of us saying this is the best thing in the world. It is, spread amongst the community members, and that I think that also would carry a lot of weight in this conversation too.
What I would suggest, who would have the most weight wouldn't be you guys. It would be a 3rd or 4th grade parent who said, I'm looking forward to seeing this new high school. That would have more impact on influencing fellow parents than anything you guys could say. They already know what you're saying. And it's exactly what Mega's saying there. I'm just clarifying that you could write something, be more important to recruit 5 or 10 at different grade levels on the elementary, better yet, even pre-K, to say, I moved to this town because I like the school system, and hearing about this high school coming, I'm really excited for my kids who are going to get the benefit of that. That's an ideal kind of, that would be an ideal kind of letter to the editor, because they're representing a certain group of people. They already know what you represent. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong, but you, to me, would be secondary and tertiary letters to the editor. It's more important to get the people who are going to be mostly affected by this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, let's face it, there's limited space. So if we take up that space.
Right. They're only going to give you, unless the paper like they have here in Glastonbury, where they run, when they have conventions like this, they'll go on pages and pages, they'll put everyone's letter in. But I don't know, I don't think the Valley, I don't think they do that, do they, Wendy? They just put a few letters in.
They do during political campaigns. It's pretty extensive, their coverage. So
all right, well then you're gonna have, then what happens is that in this case here, from my experience, is getting parents engaged to submit something in.
Yep.
It doesn't matter actually what grade level, ideally elementary though, or lower grade middle school.
So I have a question. I'm kind of curious, and it was brought up very briefly, but I guess it's kind of twofold. Is there an opposition group, which I think Beth kind of brought up when we had a casual conversation. And I guess the second question would be like, how should we react or respond to the opposition group, or do we at all?
Are you asking me, Wendy?
I guess in general, like, I just remember the last time we had this, there was a lot of tension in town, and I know that's something I really want to avoid, and I think that we should as a town. So
but there's 2 approaches to doing it. One is explain, don't defend, which is what you folks did. And now you need residents who are going to go out and be just as vocal and do what they have to do it. Because it's not worth getting in a debate, because that's what it's just not worth it. Once someone's position is clear, trying to talk them or convince them that their position is wrong is an absolute waste of time. And they have every right to say and do what they want. But my belief is that you want the people who are the whole town benefits by this activity. This high school is a community building. At the end of the day, primarily services our kids, your kids. And then anyone who's against this, we feel sorry for them. There's no sense to it. And so therefore, what it is, the more you ignore them, to be my experience, they sometimes go off the wall, because what they're looking for is attention and trying to find little pitfalls here and there and create an environment of distrust to the elected and appointed officials. That's what they do. And so, Wendy, the less you worry about that, the more important is as many people to go and show up in a voter booth is more important. So that's from my experience, how it works.
Yeah, I'm going to concur, Wendy, just that although I was not part of the last process, what I do know now is that we have a detailed plan that's been communicated, the value of the school, the cost impact of the school. We have the timeline. We know what this looks like. And so I think anytime we can keep people informed, that's always our best approach. This is the plan. This is the impact. This is the value. And you need to go vote. And the message really is that simple. And it is hard sometimes because you want to answer in certain ways, but the bottom line is we have the answers. We know what the plan is, and the communication is there. The facts are there. The information is there. The history is there. We have everything available for people to make an informed decision, and I think that's really kind of the best approach to take.
Yeah, and Wendy, the suggestion would be this last newsletter answers everything. So if you need to talk about it or anyone is on it, just use this as a reference. That's what people need to know. Anything beyond that is just going in the weeds. It's, it just lays out everything that a person who's voting just needs to know.
So should we move on to social media updates?
Sure. Not much new in the social media updates, continuing to provide information. As I discussed a little bit earlier, we are able to keep up our social media platforms. And that is because of our, deliberate attempt to keep the information factual, meeting tonight, join us tonight. That way we don't have a ton of stuff to take down when it comes post May 11th. So continuing to go in that fashion and continuing to take a dive, down our previous posts to see what needs to be removed.
And any other updates that aren't listed here? Okay, so we're going to move on to D, new business, and D1 to review the frequently asked questions.
Meg, if you want to jump in here too, we had this conversation because, like I said earlier, we had received frequent questions during our community outreach meetings. We wanted to address them here, so we thought it would be a good idea for the communications subcommittee to take a review and see if we're missing anything. I will say one question that we are adding is regarding the other options that were explored. We had a chart that we actually put up when we presented this to town council that reviews the maintain, the renovate, and the new building. And it's a very nice color-coded chart that shows kind of how we arrived at the decision that we did. So I'm just cleaning that up. The numbers at the bottom when we presented it were the net cost, but I want to make sure we have the total project cost in there as well. So once I clean that up, we will add that question to the website. So I think, Meg, I'm not sure what the easiest way to go about this, maybe just read the questions and see if we're missing anything, or open it up for a dialogue to see if there's anything else that's been heard or that you think we're missing in the FAQ, opening it up to the subcommittee.
I think if we do a quick review, because we do have a little bit of time here, of each one, just kind of stating the question. I don't think we need to necessarily go into the full answer, but like, is this capturing the main questions we're hearing? Is there something missing? And then hopefully we can come out of this today with subcommittee continuing the review, the detailed answer review, but let's see if there's anything out there that's on anybody's mind that we need to update at this point.
Okay, so we'll just go question by question.
Can I give one suggestion? Take out any adjectives like you have after a rigorous review. Those are the things that are red flags.
Yeah, that's funny, Ira, because when I was reviewing that today, rigorous was that was the first word that stuck out to us.
So anything that might be sounds, so make it the facts, ma'am, nothing but the facts kind of thing. So what you have to do is just pull out any adjectives at all.
Exactly. So that's what I'm combing through before we meet with our attorney for the next one to try to say, these are the things we want to keep up. We've kind of redacted the adjectives and made it strictly this, cleaned it up a little bit. But overall, I just want to make sure that we're capturing things that we're hearing before we even have to modify it.
Yes. So no, that's fine.
So why is the FHS Building Committee recommending a new high school? This kind of briefly goes into our background, the criteria we use, and how we decided on the new building. What are the major issues that led the committee to recommend construction of a new high school building? Statement of needs, and where we got all of that information. That's the basis of this answer. Did you look at an alternate site for a new high school? This is the work of the site evaluation subcommittee. That one has come up a lot. Does the design of the new building provide safeguards against future pandemics? COVID-19, this has been in every single one of our presentations. Kevin, sorry, you're scrolling through me off for a second. Who are the town officials and committee in charge of the process? Collaborative approach, Board of Ed, Town Council, Farmington High School Building Committee, and I think that was represented very well in all of our community outreach meetings. How disruptive will building a new high school be for students, teachers, and others? Again, this is something that was brought up in every single one of our presentations. When will the town referendum be held? How do I vote in the referendum? This will obviously be modified once it's set to have it instead of target referendum, the referendum is, and the town meeting is. What are the costs for building a new high school and tax implications for a homeowner? This also goes directly to our project cost page. What is the proposed project timeline? You can see this is a snapshot right from our presentation. How will a new high school benefit the community? We also have, will the building be able to be used by the community in the event of an emergency? That question came up at a lot of our community outreach meetings. What reviews or studies have been conducted to determine the statement of needs? And those are all linked on our website as well. What are the enrollment projections for Farmington High School? This question came up all the time. And this is, again, a direct shot from our newsletter and linked to the enrollment report. Why has Farmington High School been placed on warning status by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges? What would a loss of accreditation mean for Farmington High School? This one was recently added as a result of questions we had been hearing. So that was just being responsive to that to make sure we had it on our FAQ. Will the 1928 building be demolished as part of the FHS building project? That one's a clear one from Town Council. They gave us a direction, and I think we addressed it a lot, especially at the community meetings and the site, the exterior of the building meeting. Why is the 900 wing of the school being renovated as part of the proposed design? This elaborates more on the needs of central office, the locker rooms, and the overcrowding at Town Hall to address the statement of needs. What will happen if this project doesn't pass referendum? That was something we were hearing a lot. So that's a new one. How is the FHS building project planning to mitigate surrounding neighborhood impacts? That's another one we hear a lot, and a result of our neighborhood meetings summarized in the answer, some things that we had discussed. What is the quiet period for the town/town officials? We've discussed this at almost every meeting in the past couple months. So there's a lot of confusion around that, not only for our committee members, for elected officials, but for the public as well, because they don't know why, once the referendum question is set, things change. So we want to make sure we have that up there. And then how will parking improve at the new school? This answers straight from the schematic design report. So again, I'm adding that question about, what's the cost for a renovation? What were the other things that were explored by the committee, and just putting it in that chart. But other than that, just want to see if there were any other questions or something we're missing to make sure we get it up there.
I see several things here, Kat. Can you scroll, go back to the warning from the NEAC? Yeah, the accreditation right there. I would move that up under the after the second question, because you're stating it, just moving around stuff.
Okay.
And what you need to do is that if you're going to have acronyms, don't forget, even though you have it on the title, put it somewhere, give the full name. I see you do. Okay, you did that up there. All right. Sorry about that. And I think what you have to do, Devin, is bump up the type. It's pretty small. You have to bump up the typeface here to some ADA standards. It's like 10-point type. I know this is minutia for you guys. You run into this all the time. You got to make the type a little larger for people who, like me, who has poor eyes.
All right, yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Please do that. The other one is I saw in there, can you scroll down where you had a list more importantly? Yeah, right here. And you can't say, lastly and most importantly, Farmington is one of the smallest. You can't say stuff like that. Again, those are advocate statements. You have to say, Farmington has one of the smallest staff levels for a central office in the state. We rank one . So don't kind of sequence things.
Absolutely.
Just also what you have to do is explain what the 900 wing is right up front. The 900 wing was is currently part of the current building. You're using shorthand talk here. You have to kind of explain. Most people have no idea what a 900 building is.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm doing over the next day is really combing.
I mean, I can work with on.
phrases.
I can work with you on this, Kat.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Just send it over to me. Yeah, because you've done some of this stuff, and I think what you're saying, we just kind of look at the wordsmithing a little bit, just to get it more neutral.
Absolutely.
Would help out, and so because because this might be where the lawyer's saying, well, you can't say this, this, and this, and you say, why not? These are facts.
Right, and we want to make that language so that it's when we're presenting it here, it's it's without those lastly and most importantly phrases.
And I think there should be a much more thorough answer, and this might be what's really important in here, because if the video that Meg did, they're making you take that down. We need to have some explanation. What are the major current issues at the high school that Kathy, you brought up, and your assistant superintendent? That explanation was perfect. Or what Scott brought up too. That if we can put that in here, list, I know there's a ton of stuff, but I would put at least these are the major issues, and that's fine, that we have determined based upon thorough examination by that you have to do. So those become factual. You might take that list wherever that list is right now and just use it. And I think Meg did, and that's why we did the video was done, which kind of here's what the problems are. And so because if we can't have something that explains to people in this Q&A what's wrong with the current high school, assuming most people, you can't run the assumption everyone knows what the problem physically at the high school is. The assumption is most people have no idea. So I would just clarify that a lot more.
Can I ask a technical question? And Devin, you can tell me if I'm absolutely nuts here. So do not, if this is like crazy hard, tell me right now. Do we have the ability to do a click with then an expansion of the text?
I am not sure, but I can definitely explore that.
The only reason why I'm saying it is people really have to scroll.
Right.
So like if you give them right up front, here's all the questions, they might see a question that they wouldn't think to ask. And then they can get the answer to it. You understand? But we're tell me if that's like a horrible thing to ask. But yeah, I mean, it shouldn't, I'm not talking about changing content or anything else, but it's like, I'd like to know the answer to this one. And then it drops the answer below.
And the most obvious thing too, for finding it, if you say most asked questions or these are questions, you don't have to say Q&A, put a number to it. So if someone wants to refer to a particular question, having a number for that question would be more than adequate, Devin. Usually, in other words, you can title this, Q&A section. You don't have to say Q&A anymore. You just have to number. So people, when they want to go back, since we have a whole bunch of them here, well, question number 4, I want to go back to question number 4. But right now, finding it, you'd have to scroll a lot to find that question. It's just a reference.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes sense. We will look into, I'm sure Squarespace has a template, Meg, for that we can modify this and see if there's a painless way to transfer that over. I think I'm sure they do, so it should be fine. And then Ira will take the Q&A part and have them.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I just
a great way to reference that.
Yeah, we don't want to go through every line by line, but we'll work that through. It's something I know Kathy would love to do. And it's I think if we make this extremely objective, I wouldn't see any reason why it wouldn't be able to be kept up in replacing the video that they say it's not available. That's how we have to kind of think about it that way.
So Ira, I'll pull down the text and get it to you in a editable format, and then if you and I can comb through that and see if we can make this a little more neutral.
Hey, Kat, it's just a little thing, but on the question about the 900 wing, can you just double check me? I think we have 169 towns in Connecticut. I actually heard the 166 the other night and it didn't sound right.
It's 166 that they rank. They changed it. Yeah, they changed it a few years back. So it's 166, and I don't know if some are just I mean, there's several regional, but it's 166 now.
I've always wondered about that too.
Yeah, so that's like the new.
We always used 169. That's why. So that's new.
Yeah, we have 169 towns, right, in Connecticut, but for purposes of school district rankings, they use 1 to 166 now.
Yeah, and that's been an increase, Kathy, because it used to be lower. Because now I think they're putting the magnet schools in and other kind of these pseudo districts that aren't aligned to traditional regional schools.
And we're actually, I just saw an updated, we're 156 in general administration now. So we're spending even less.
Keep going here and just talk till 155 in another hour.
Well, I have a suggestion then. Can you put like 166, like region, like say it's districts versus towns? Because it is 169. There's a running club that runs 169 towns in Connecticut. So that is very distinct of the 169. But could you say that it's like 166 school districts? Yeah, because there's like region 14, region 15. They're all grouped with like 2 or 3 towns. So definitely regionalized. I could see where that 166 comes in.
Yeah, we'll update that so that it clarifies the rankings.
I actually had another question. I wasn't sure if I missed this, but was there a question? I know this came up with people asking me as to why we chose the location of the building.
Yes, there's a question on that, and it references the work of the site evaluation committee and then links to that report that they created that kind of walks through all of the locations that were explored and why they were not chosen. Right here. This is why we need numbers on our questions.
Yeah, I think you guys scrolled through that so fast. I was like, did they bring that up? I wasn't sure. Sorry, I missed that. Okay.
I'll tell you another thing you can add to this, Kat, and we'll stop it here because we'll keep you on here for 4 hours if we keep doing this. We can show the maps of the current layout and then proposed. We need those visuals up front. Here's what the current layout is with all the additions, and that's a fact. And then we can show what the new one's going to be, the 3 levels, and that's a fact. Anything that's visual in the Q&A, because those are things that can't be questioned. Those are things that are actual.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left because we have to be at another meeting.
Yeah, I'll go through. I'll go through this with Kathy, and you guys will take a look at it one more time.
Yeah. Is there any other big questions?
I just had something about the order, and I think as you go through it comprehensively, that will probably come up if things should be moved around. I think someone mentioned one already. I just didn't know if the quiet period question should be up higher since we're going to be in the quiet period, and again emphasizing that. So. A process question kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think we can prioritize the sequence for you, Beth.
The only thing I would say maybe, Kat, is we get so many financial questions, just maybe a general question and link to the page.
Yes.
that has all the financial information, just so if someone comes to the FAQ and they're looking for that, it would
goes
be right there.
Yeah, and that's something we were pretty deliberate about, keeping all the financial information in one spot on that project cost page. We did update the financial forecast. We included, the financial forecast itself was not updated, but we did add all of the assumptions that Joe included in that forecast. Just so if you're seeing it, it's included there. And that elaborated a little bit more on the Fryer report. And then the federal infrastructure money that we got questions on all the time, that just basically included it too, that, you know, we don't really know what the regulations are for that. Once we do, we'll see what we can apply it to. But as of right now, there are strict regulations for it. So that's included there as a result of questions that we received.
So it might be that there are 2 questions here that actually link to that page.
Link to that page, yeah.
You know, like the grant question and the just overall, you know, tax impact kind of thing.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the net municipal cost in the first question.
Yes, I believe the range is there because that was part of the project.
Yeah.
Was there anything on timeline?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We added that was a recent thing, and Beth
brought there it is. Yeah.
Recently,
Okay.
We didn't even have it as an FAQ. So that's an important one, and we wanted to make sure we added it. And just a visual. We'll try to make it visual for people also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this looks great, Kat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, nice work, guys.
Devin, Kat, for and Meg for putting this together. And so I think that was our last agenda item. Anything, and we're at 6:22. Anything else?
I think just congratulations to you guys for all the hard work you've put in over the months. I mean, this, like Ira said, this is as far as you've checked every box. I don't think there's anything left for you all to do. So you should be proud of the work you put in.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you all to my districts I'm having a hard time with. Right
Yeah, everyone. It's just, I know we're going to continue. Well, we'll continue to work together after the referendum, but just really thank you to everyone. It's just been a great team, our communications subcommittee, everyone working so hard, and a pleasure to work with everyone. So we'll look to the future.
Yes.
All right. So motion to adjourn at 6:23.
Motion.
And second, Wendy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? All right.